Alright, one last video for the day. I wanted to come and do a video on the stages of the therapeutic relationship, which is very quick. There are only 3 stages. They could be broken up into more, but just for the exam's sake, because this is review, there are 3 stages, and then we'll talk about treatment planning. So the first stage of the therapeutic relationship is intake, the second stage is active treatment, and the third stage is termination and discharge, and I do have notes here. As usual. So the first stage is intake. This is where you do assessment. You may receive a referral from another agency, or the client may refer themselves voluntarily for services, but this is where you sit down, you do an assessment, you get to know the client, you build a rapport and trust with the client, and you find out what's going on with them so that you can set some goals and then start implementing a treatment plan. And I do have a video on assessments and interviewing that I'll put the link here somewhere. It should be a box or something that pops up. Then the second stage of the therapeutic relationship is active treatment, and this is where you work side by side with the client on the goals that the client has chosen to work on, and you will reassess throughout the process. Now with active treatment, you may or may not be the person doing therapy with the client. You may not be in that role in your agency, so you may have to refer the client out to another agency to receive other services that you or your agency do not provide. And then the last stage is termination and discharge. This is where you summarize the treatment, and it's very hard for some clients to they become attached. Some of them become attached, and it's hard for them to separate from you. So you may get some resistance from the client, which is normal, but you have to make sure to set boundaries and make sure that they are aware that they have completed their treatment goals. If you do a reassessment with them, or you do a final survey and you find out that they have not met all of their goals, or there's something that they need to work on extra, then you may have to extend your services, but you don't want to keep extending. You want to cut off, and cut off, I guess it's a harsh way to put it, but you do have to terminate services. And you also have to complete aftercare. So what is the client going to do now that they're not meeting with you anymore? How are they going to maintain their progress and their success after reaching all their goals? Okay, so when it comes to the treatment plan, you have to make sure that the treatment plan, some people use the acronym SMART, which is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. SMART, S-M-A-R-T, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. So we'll talk about each one of those. So when it comes to treatment planning, you have to make sure that the goal is specific. The goals are specific. What the client is going to be doing, how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it, who's going to be involved, why they're... Okay, let's get a little specific here. Okay, let's say that the goal is to get an education. Let's say they dropped out of high school. So who's going to be involved with this? Are you going to give them resources to help them find a way to get their GED or their high school diploma? What is it that they want to accomplish? It's getting their GED or their high school diploma. Where? So you have to make sure they know the resources. This is what we do. We broker resources to clients. So we have to make sure that we know that there are places that can actually help this client achieve this goal. When is very important, because you don't want a client working forever on getting their GED or their high school diploma, which it may take some time though. It could take months, it could take weeks, but you need to have a time limit, a limited time for them to reach this goal. And then why? Of course, they're doing it to further their life, better their career, better their chances of being marketable and that kind of thing. So Then the M in SMART, which is the acronym we're going to work on, measurable. So these goals have to be something that are measurable, and they have to be able to track the goal. So let's say that, sticking with the GED sample, I'm sorry, I'm always touching my face, but anyway, so you're working with the GED example. So let's say that the time frame that the client has set is 9 months to get their GED. Let's say they dropped out of high school in 11th grade, so they do have a good bit of general education, but they need to get the actual documentation that they completed. So let's say 9 months, which is probably about the equivalent of a school year, is the goal. We want to make sure that the goal is measurable. So within 3 months, we want to see what the progress is, and then the 6-month mark, we want to see what the progress is. So that's very important, making sure that you reach target dates and things like that. Let's see what this says. You want to make sure you stay on track. Establish concrete criteria for measuring process goals. Okay, so that's that part. Attainable is the A in SMART. Goals that are attainable. Sometimes when working with the client, we want to give them goals, but we have to remember that social work is all about self-determination. So even though we may help the client make their goals, it's still up to the client to set their own goals, because it's their life, it's what they want to work on. And when you think about something that's attainable, yes, some of us may say 9 months to get our GED is just a little bit too long, but for that client, 9 months may be just the right amount of time. So when you think about other goals that the client may have, let's say a financial goal, let's say that the client makes a good amount of money, but they're horrible at budgeting, and so they come up with a savings goal of $500 in 6 months. Now, the client, just for sake of throwing an example out there, let's say that the client makes $2,000 a month, which you can have a client who makes that amount of money, although most of our clients make minimum wage, but some of them, every now and then you'll get a client who does fairly well, but they just don't have the skills to budget their money and things like that. So let's say they make $2,000 a month, but their goal is only $500 within a 6-month period. Now, we might look at them and say, come on now, you can save more than that in 6 months. But to them, they know their situation, they know their planning, and if you see something otherwise, yes, you can express that to them, but it's still up to them at the end of the day. That's an attainable goal for them. They might bring you papers and things like that where they're in a lot of debt, and even though they make $2,000 a month, they have to pay this debt off, and they have sky-high debt. So to them, $500 over a 6-month period for savings is attainable. Now, another thing, let's say that the client wants to further their education after getting their GED. They want to go on and get a 4-year degree afterwards. And so that's one of their goals. Let's say that they have a reading disability. Let's say they have dyscalculia, which is, disability, not able to learn math and that kind of thing. Let's say that they have all of these issues, but they want to go full-time right after they get their GED in 9 months and do extra courses. Normally you take about, I believe, 15 hours in college each semester, which is like 5 3-hour classes. Let's say they want to do 18 hours. They have this learning disability and they want to graduate in 3 years as opposed to 4 years. That may not be attainable. Anything is possible, but that may not be attainable. So you may want to talk with the client and tell them, okay, this may not be an attainable goal for you in this amount of time, carrying that kind of workload. Let's talk about decreasing the workload and making sure we sign you up for services in student disabilities department to kind of help you make sure that you stay on track. You have like a peer mentor, that kind of thing. So all of the goals need to be attainable, and it has to be up to the client to set these goals with your assistance. Then we get down to the R, which is realistic, and that kind of goes back to the example about carrying 18 hours each semester to try to graduate in 3 years as opposed to 4. That's kind of not realistic for this particular client. So we kind of want to make sure that we talk with the client about being real about what the goal is. A goal can be both high and realistic. You are the only one who can decide just how high your goal should be. So again, it's about self-determination for the client. And then the T in SMART is timely. You want to make sure, again, that you're not working on these goals forever, that you set a good amount of time that the client sets a good amount of time to reach these goals, that is realistic and it's attainable. So again, with the 9-month span for your GED, after completing only 11th grade, should be a realistic goal as far as time. So that's it for treatment planning. Again, SMART is the acronym. Your treatment plan goals should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So that's it for that. If you have any questions or comments or anything, any topic in particular that you want me to do a video on, just let me know, and I will see you in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and remember that this test does not define you as a social worker. So just make sure that even if you fail 1 time or 2 times or however many times, this test does not define you as a social worker. It's just another obstacle you have to overcome to get to where you want to be in your career. Doesn't mean that you're bad or horrible or anything like that. Hopefully we'll pass it on the first go, but if not, please don't be discouraged, because trust me, a lot of our colleagues have not passed it on the first time. Sometimes it takes them 2, 3, 4 times, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just some people aren't good test takers and need accommodations and need help and tutoring and things like that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Alright, so like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you next video.